Impact HD 2.0, User-Defined Grids. Now, User-Defined Grids is a function that allows users to leverage the power of SQL views to harvest customized data in a grid format and dynamically display this data at various levels throughout the system. Now, this powerful feature provides additional functions that allow you to control what specific data is displayed, such as the ability to filter data using implicit SQL where clauses. Now, keep in mind that this video assumes some basic understanding on how to create a SQL view. If you have any questions, consult with your IT professional or contact CSS Client Services for assistance regarding SQL views. Now, before we can dive into how to configure or how to define a user-defined grid, let's make sure that your users have access to this function. User-defined grids are controlled by security at the security group level. So here we have a sample screen definition for a security group, and under the menu selections area, open up the collections group and the work accounts subgroup and scroll down, and you are going to find the option for user grids. Make sure this option is checked in order for users of this group to have access to this function. Okay, so now we are ready to go and define a user-defined grid. In order to access the maintenance screen, go open Tables, Collection Tables, User-Defined Grid. That option is going to open the User-Defined Grid maintenance screen. As we will see in a moment, user-defined grids are exposed at various levels throughout the system. At the account level, at the demographic or party level, at the legal case level, at the legal party level or dem legal level, at the bankruptcy level, and at the payment arrangement level. All of these levels are controlled by the user-defined grid type. So let us go ahead and create a user-defined grid. To create a new one, we simply hit on the Add button at the bottom of the screen, and that will open the window where we can define the attributes of this grid. First, an alphanumeric code which is 10 in length. So in this case we'll do demo 123, a description for this grid. Now the next option is the type, and as we indicated earlier, the user-defined grids are exposed at various levels throughout the system. And here we have the levels at which the grids are exposed. At the account level, at the demographic or party level, at the legal case level, at the legal party level, at the bankruptcy level, and at the payment arrangement level. Now the user-defined grid type will filter the views by the name of the. In other words, there is a naming convention for the views in order for them to properly display as an option in the UDG view field pull down. And the naming convention is as follows. The first 4 characters of the name of the view must begin as follows. For account level, the name of the view must begin with UAC underscore. For a demographic level user-defined grid, the view must begin with the name UDE underscore. For the legal level, they must begin with ULE underscore. For the legal party level, the view must begin with the first 4 characters U, D as in David, L as Larry. For bankruptcy level, U, D as David, K as King. And for payment arrangement, UAC. So as we see here, the system will filter the views available based on the type selected. So here we'll only see views that begin with UAC. For demographic level, we will see only views that begin with UDE. For legal level, this is the legal case level, only views that begin with ULE. For the legal party or dem legal level, only views that begin with UDL. For bankruptcy, the views must begin with UBK. And finally, for payment arrangement, the name of the view must begin with UAC, exactly the same as the account level. So for purposes of this demonstration, let us create an account level grid that is going to use a DBT underscore POE view. This view basically queries on the place of employment table. Now, for those that are technically inclined, let us take a quick look at how the view looks in a visualizer. So here we have a view that basically is defining every single element of the POE table without any restriction. Now, if we run this view, we would get every single record for this entire database. That's where the next option comes into play. If this option is set to no, every single record that qualifies for that view will be dynamically displayed in the grid. Now, if we set this option to yes, only the data that pertains to the account that's currently open will be displayed. Now, we'll take a look at that in just a second as an example. The next option, option 2, set to no, basically is allowing us to leave this as a blank statement. Whereas if we set it to yes, we can define a where clause defining or filtering the results of that query, or further defining a filter for the results of that query. For instance, if I was only interested in a specific result code or zip code, this is where I would select, where the zip code is 92124. Now we're talking about the POE table, and therefore that's what the statement would look like. Now, for purposes of this example, for the time being, let us turn these two options to no and see how this looks from the work card. Okay, so here we have an account, and we find the user grids in the navigation panel under the action submenu. So we're going to click the user grids for account level grids, and we see that we have a few options, one of which is the one that we just created, the demo 123. We have a code, the description that we defined, the type, in this case is D for account level or DBT level, and the view that we are linking to this grid. Now, to see the results of this view, we simply double click on the view to execute it, and the system will return every single record in this database for those fields. Again, as we saw earlier, these are the fields that were defined in that specific view that we are linking the grid to. But say that a more practical example would be to have just display in this grid only the POE data for just this specific account. This is where option 1 comes into play. If we set that to yes, then we will only see the results for the account that we are currently in. So let's go ahead and make that change from the user-defined grids definition window. So here is our grid. We're going to turn this option to yes to only display the results of the query for that specific account only. We're going to save that and return to the account. So here is the account again. Let's call on the account level user window, and we're going to open the demo 123 grid again, and this time we only see the results for the current account, in this case account 500201. And we see here that this is a good view because we have all of the places of employment for every demographic in the system, for every single field in the place of employment table. So we have the ID, the demographic ID, the sequence of the POE, the name of the POE, the contact person. We have the address, the city, the state, the zip. So this could be a useful grid that will keep all of the places of employment in one single place, again dynamically displayed in the grid, instead of having to open the demographic and opening each one of the details of the POE. As we can see here, this is the first record we saw earlier in the grid. In this case, demographic A0 has 2 places of employment, and demographic B0 has another 2. So that is what we see here. These are the 4 places of employment that we can see all at once, instead of having to individually opening the demographic and then the place of employment table. So now let us take a look at option number 2, the ability to filter using the implicit where clause. For that, let's go to the definition for the user-defined grid that we're working on. And now we're going to turn this option number 2 to yes. And let's say that we're only interested in zip codes that are equal to 94124. So now we're working with both options yes. We're going to save these changes and we'll go take a look at the work card. So let us navigate to that work card again, and we are going to open up the user grids one more time and double click on that demo, and now we only have 2 entries. That's because we have filtered by zip code 94124, so the system returns only those records that match that criteria. As we indicated earlier, the grids are at multiple levels. We are now looking at user grids at the account level, but we find the grids at the demographic level by simply clicking on the demographic user-defined grid button. And here we have the one that we saw when we were looking at the maintenance screen. Now to find the demographic, the bankruptcy level user-defined grid, we navigate to the legal menu and find the bankruptcy UDG, and that will expose any bankruptcy user-defined grids that may have been added to the system. Now for the legal user-defined grids, both the legal case and legal party, we find them under the legal docker. And here, if we open up a legal case or a legal party, here we have the case user-defined grids, and we need to open the details of a legal party, and that's where we will find the demographic level user-defined grids. So to recap, user-defined grids allows users to dynamically display virtually any set of customized data in a grid format at various levels throughout the system using SQL views. Now you have two filters, one to allow you to expose the entire data set, or to filter by just that of the account number that you're in, and a second filter that allows you to use a virtual or an implicit where clause where you can further refine the results of your query. So with this, we conclude this presentation on Impact HD 2.0 user-defined grids.